but that offenses will come. Guys, you got to get ready. Trouble. But woe to him through whom they come. It would be better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck and he was cast into the sea. You hear that? Now that may hasten the end of your ministry in that area. It's going to happen. Just don't you be the one that makes it happen. Church is not to be the place where you stir up the trouble. You let the Lord do that. In the perfecting of the saints, we teach the word. The Holy Spirit brings the trials, okay? You let him worry about how that's going to happen. Now he says, your action has so corrupted everything. Your factions and arguments and differences of opinion and sociological, theological haggling has created such a monstrosity that he says in verse 20, listen, when you come together, therefore, into one place, it is impossible for you to eat the Lord's Supper. Uk esti with an infinitive in the Greek is translated, it is impossible. You might think that's the Lord's Supper. I got news for you. That is not the Lord's Supper you're eating. You may be drinking a cup and saying some words, and you may be eating a piece of bread and saying some words, but that is not the Lord's Supper. It's impossible to have the Lord's Supper when you have hearts like you have. Can't be done. Because, verse 21, in eating, everyone takes before the other his own supper. Well, what kind of a potluck is that? Where you go and sit in a corner and eat your own food. Selfish. And one is hungry, the poor man, he can't get anything, and another is drunk. You have extremes there. The rich are drunk, and the poor have nothing. And you call this the love feast? You call this the Lord's Supper? You say this is communing, and then you enter into the communion in that kind of a situation, hating each other, fighting each other, antagonizing each other. How can you celebrate the common unity of the saints? How can you do what he says in 10:16? How can this be communion with the blood, communion with the body? How can you be that one bread and one body of verse 17? How can you celebrate that you're a one bread family? You've destroyed it. There's no room for that. And then Paul, in just a frustration, as if he were groping for a reason why they're doing it, says in verse 22, what? What am I to think? What is the answer? Is it because you don't have a house to eat and drink in? I mean, do you roam the streets and the only place you can go to eat is here, so you got to come here and stuff your face? Is that it? You don't have a home? If you're hungry, that you could go home to and eat or drink? You got to turn the fellowship meal into a gluttony and drunkenness exercise because you don't have a house you can eat and drink in? Is that it? Or maybe it isn't that you don't have a house. Maybe it's that you despise the church of God. Maybe your problem is you hate the church and you just as soon just destroy it. Maybe your desire is to take the thing which Jesus has bought with his precious blood and wreck it. Is that what you want to do? And boy, I always think of this whenever I think of somebody who tries to do something divisive in a church. Is it because you hate the church that you're doing this? Is this your way of saying, Lord, I just want you to know that since you built the church, I'm going to take the liberty to wreck it? Is that why you're doing this? When you sow seeds of discord or disunity, Paul says, is that what you have in mind? Or maybe this. Maybe you just want to shame poor people. Maybe you just get glee out of putting your heel on somebody's neck who doesn't have anything. Maybe that's why you're behaving like you are. You either don't have a house, or you hate God, or you hate people. What am I going to say to you, he says. Should I praise you? I praise you not. No praise for you. The church is one place where, maybe the only place, where rich and poor ought to be able to commune together, where rich and poor ought to love each other. Jesus made this clear. The apostles made it clear. It became the pattern of the new churches. They shared all things in common. In Galatians 2:10, Paul says, hey, don't forget the poor. Church is one place where the barriers ought to be broken down. And in the ancient world, they were rigid. I mean, there were free men and slaves and men and women and Greek and barbarians and people who spoke Greek and people who didn't, and educated and uneducated, and Jews and Gentiles and rich and poor and Romans and non-Romans and cultured and uncultured, and all of these barriers, and the church came together and just shattered them all. The walls were broken down, Ephesians 2 says. And then 20 years later, they're building them all over again. putting them all back up. You say, but John, what does this say to me? I think it says a lot of things. Number one, it says you better come to the Lord's table. And secondly, it says you better be careful how you deal with the church, and you better be sure that you don't do anything to divide the church. And I'll tell you, when you come to the Lord's Supper, I hope you don't come with any racist feelings, because in Christ there aren't any. I hope you don't come with any sexist feelings or classist feelings or selfish, uncaring feelings. Because if you do, you pervert this fellowship and you pervert the Lord's table just like the Corinthian church did. And what am I going to say to you? I'll say to you what Paul said, I praise you not. We come together for fellowship, beloved. We come together to worship God. We come together to celebrate our unity. Let it be pure. Let it be real. And you let the Holy Spirit in His providence allow the factions to come for the purifying of the church. Don't you start them. I trust that our church would not be like the Corinthian church, but that our church would be like the Thessalonian church, of whom Paul said this: we give thanks to God always for you all, making mention of you in our prayers, remembering without ceasing your work of faith and labor of love and patience of hope in our Lord Jesus Christ, in the sight of God and our Father. And further he said this, and this is beautiful: and as touching brotherly love, you need not that I write unto you, for you yourselves are taught of God to love one another. Our Father, we do thank you for the clear word we've heard, for the high calling that you've given us. We see how the Corinthians had perverted everything. And Father, that is the thing that we desire to avoid. Teach us how to make peace. Teach us how to bring unity. Give us the desire above all to be obedient to you. Save us from our selfishness. Don't let us be divided into theological cliques, sociological cliques, or cliques built around the opinions that come and go with every passing of business and activity. Deepen our love for each other so that we sacrifice to meet the needs that each has. And we'll thank you in Christ's name. Amen.
You've been listening to John Macarthur on Grace to You. He's a pastor, author, and president of the Master's College and Seminary, both in the Los Angeles area. The lesson you just heard is a part of John's practical study on the Lord's Supper.
He said in verse 7, I was given a thorn. I didn't ask for it. Because I'm preaching to people that are fighting something you didn't ask for. I'm preaching to people who are fighting something that you didn't ask for. And all these categories Paul lists will make a good starting place for us to evaluate our life and see what is that thing where we need God. He mentions hardships. He mentions insults. He mentions persecutions. He mentions difficulties. He mentions all of these things, weaknesses. He mentions them categorically and metaphorically. But this is not a shopping list. Life will give you enough of those. You don't have to go looking for them. Insults. Life will give you plenty of those. You don't have to infer them when they're not there. Did you see how she looked at me? No. I don't even think she was looking at you. Yes, she did. She was looking at me. Did you hear how they said that? They said that about me. They were talking about me. Insults. Life will give you enough. You'll get insulted for real. Somebody will be on your comments looking for you to have a Botox, a Mary Kay consultant, a ninja in the comments trying to take you down. You won't have to go looking for a hardship. Yeah, it'll give you enough. And that's why, for me, this is just me in my house. Social media is really dangerous. I'm not saying it's bad, because right now while I'm preaching, they're posting on an account about my sermon on the thing. But for me, because life gives me enough thorns, I have enough insecurity. I deal with enough in my head. I mean, I got enough movies to make me miserable the rest of my life. Regrets, things I replay, self-doubt, even self-loathing. Well, hold on now, Pastor Stephen. You are a preacher. You should have worked through these issues. Paul had a thorn. You have a thorn. If you keep looking at me this fake, I'm going to interview your family members, and I'm going to find out your thorn, and I'm going to put you on blast in the pulpit next week. But what got me about it was that social media can be like a thorn store, where as if you don't have enough already to feel worried about or to compare yourself. If it's not hard enough to be a teenager with the fear of missing out, you can go and find proof that you're missing out of all the people that didn't invite you and watch the things that they're doing. It can be like for me, I don't go on Facebook because it'll make me too angry. And I may not face Goliath, but I already got a really bad temper. I may not face Goliath, but I have anger issues, right? So I don't need all that. I don't need more thorns. I don't need to borrow your thorns. I don't need to be swimming in the sewage of other people's anger when I've already got enough anger of my own. I'm not looking for me, Instagram is like Thornhub. It's just like, it's this, oh God. He's preaching a real sermon today. He's saying real things today. To me, this is like I'm not looking for insults, hardships, persecutions, weaknesses. I've already got enough of those. I need a word from God. I need an encouraging voice. I need an image that I can aspire to that looks like Christ. He said a thorn was given to me. And he says a strange phrase. He says it was a messenger of Satan. The word in Greek for messenger is angelos. What does that sound like? Angelos. 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 Angel. The same word that is used for messenger. Y'all don't believe me. Put my Bible verse back up. He said, because of these surpassingly great revelations, therefore, in order to keep me from becoming conceited, I was given a thorn, a messenger of Satan. Angelos. Same word as angel. The same word as angel. An angel, a messenger. It's the same word. There's no difference in the word. An angel of Satan to torment me. An angel of Satan? I don't want that kind. I don't. I never prayed for Satan to give me anything in my life. And Paul didn't like it either. And he said, the first time he got that thing, hit with that thing, he said, return to sender. And he did it 3 times. And sometimes that works and God helps you through it. And you're like, oh, I'm not going to struggle with that anymore. And that's awesome. And you can testify and help others. But in this case, Paul said, in this case, he said, I had to see that it was given to me, even though the enemy delivered it. He said it came from an angel. An angel of Satan gave me a gift from God. And that's why I think this week when it comes to the thorns in your life, you, even if it's a person that gets on your nerves, raise your hand if there's one in your life. So this week tell them, you're such an angel. Now, if they go to church here, don't say that because they'll know the Greek. But if they don't go to church here, they won't have a clue what you're talking about. Say, man, you're just like an angel to me. And what the angel brought me is a thorn. And I started to get confused because he said it was an angel. Your teenagers, did you know your teenagers' parents are angels? Teenagers, did you know your parents are angels? I can't wait all week. People that walking around their house feeling like, what's up? Angel, angel, angel. Everybody, all the angels saluting each other that God is using to keep us dependent on him. You gave me a gift of realizing how much I need God. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, you're going to see angels everywhere this week. Put the verse back up. He said, it's a messenger from Satan. He said, but I don't have to like the delivery service to open the package. That's right. So it was an angel, a messenger of Satan, in order to keep me from getting so conceited. God knows what you're prone to. God knew that Paul was prone to pride. So what God does, he matches your thorn, your course, to your calling. The reason I can't pick my own mentor in life is I don't know what I need, because I don't even know who I really am yet. And I certainly don't know who I'm gonna be when God gets done with me. So God is so good that he knows how to match.
Critical, because I don't think race is social justice. I think race is life. If we don't protect the sanctity of life, because your skin is different, how is this disconnected from the sanctity of the womb? Forget about the fact when we talk about voting, Bishop, I mean, people don't want to talk about systemic racism issues. Well, even if you did mobilize the Black community, a lot of the jails are filled with Black men. They can no longer vote forever. Mm-hmm. So you have this giant portion of our population who will never be able to have a voice.
Wonder why that is.
Never be able to weigh in. So it's very interesting how our jails are filled with Black men, and then we accuse the Black community of not having a voice at times, and it's harder to register, it's harder to vote. All kinds of crazy stuff happens when some Black friends try to vote. I've been able to stroll in every time, punch a ballot, walk out. I've heard some of the stories of Black people trying to vote that just would even blow your mind. So I think, again, we're complicit in this, because if we want to teach people to build and vote on their convictions, do that. But when we start putting it where we put it now, which is if you even have a different thought, if you even want to raise your hand and ask a question, you're anti-God, we're in trouble. And so I don't necessarily know what to do, but Bishop, before I throw it to Judah, I would like, there's one practical thing as I'm sitting here, like I know there's more pastors that are tired of being complicit. I know there are more than less. Yeah. We need to get a list of some of these systems that we can attack and we can mobilize, some of these small judicial things. Some of these, I know there's a pastor gonna watch this and go, oh, I wanna do that. I got a church of 300. Where do we petition? What law, what DA is crooked? Like, if we can put together something like that for people, I think we can start chipping away at this. I really do, because most people sit here and they go, you're either one of two camps. One camp is you don't care. No one's listening because they're defensive. The other camp is, I'm with you. What do you do? And then they end up going thoughts and prayers because they don't know what to do. Yeah. So I know one thing I want to change as a leader is I want to start putting people, Judah, you know how your Chelsea put up that thing, the 5-step thing she's going to do to actively do more than post? We need to do that on a grand scale and say, if you care about people, if you care about, eradicating racism, these are 7 things that your church will always be about. These are 9 things that you have to care about. And I think little practical things like that can start to chip away, but the politics it's a mess right now. Because of a lot of the stuff, the pressure we put on people, as especially white evangelical Christianity. We are a political party. And if anybody wants to believe otherwise, they're kidding themselves.
If you want to find out how to affect the political systems where there are controls that are unjust or unreasonable, and you can pick out what you're comfortable with doing, if you text the word demands, DEMANDS, to 55156, you will get a panoramic view of what really needs to happen to bring about long-term systemic change in the criminal justice system, in the Black community, with the educational systems, and with the healthcare system. Demands, DEMANDS, to 55156. And if you want to know specifically about the case with George Floyd, text Floyd to the same 55156. You will get a whole lot of information. And I want to say to you, to our audience that's listening out there, I know this is an uncomfortable conversation, and we're in an uncomfortable place in this country. And if you've ever been married very long, you've had to have had some uncomfortable conversations, or you got divorced. So sometimes uncomfortable conversations are very healthy. Get out of your bubble, whether you're black or white. Go into a Republican, an all-white conservative Republican environment, and sit there and listen. Turn on Fox News and listen at Fox News. Turn on CNN and listen at CNN. Turn on MSNBC. All of them are bent to a particular idea. And we are the result of what we hear, and we swallow it as truth. Get out of your norm and go over there and hear the sides of the story that you're not hearing, and then fact check all of that stuff to see where you actually end up. And when you fact check, realize it's whatever you tout to be true is based on the books you read. Okay, so don't get out of your little corner of recommended reading that Apple is recommending because you read a few books. Now they know how you think, and they're pumping you more of the same, and start getting in some unlikely books to read for how they have figured you out, because all of our technology has figured out what we want to hear, and they're pumping our heads with more of the same. They know how you want to dress, and they show you the clothes that you have bought in the past. We are all being hardwired right now for dollars, all of us. And I think that we are all too aligned with parties and not principles, okay? With politics and not policies. And I have for a long time voted both ways. It depends on who I thought would do the best job for the country. And for a long time, I look at who will do the best job for the country. I don't care whether it's black or white or female or male or Republican or Democrat right now. I want somebody who can run this country for us. And I want somebody whose word I can trust on the things that matter to me, that make a difference in my world, that secure a future for my grandchildren. I want somebody who's smart enough to know that right now our enemies are having a party, because while we fight amongst ourselves, they are strategically buying up property in the recession, taking control of the land around us, hacking into all of our systems to infiltrate how we think by the truth that we perceive that it is, preparing themselves for a war while we are talking about nuclear war. They are doing things with germs. They are doing things on such another level. And clearly we are not prepared to fight off a biological war that affects us physiologically. We're running around here trying to make ventilators at the car lot. We are not ready. Because we are so focused on stereotypical ideas, we are not ready for the 21st century. I went to Dubai and I left scared, but I saw how far ahead they were in so many ways. You got to get out of America and see the world. Don't drink the Kool-Aid. If you can't get out, read out. Get out some kind of way and see where the world is going and where we are stuck in these cycles that empower people to manipulate us so that they can get into positions of power. I have been in the rooms when the decisions were made. We got to get the base revved up. Let's feed them some meat. Let's go after this. And then we all respond in typical ways, just like your phone has figured out what you like to wear. And that has got to change.
Yes, sir.
I'm not trying to change you from being pro-life. I'm not trying to change you from being against same-sex marriage or for same-sex marriage or a woman's right to choose.
Have you ever watched The Exorcist and wondered, are demons real? Well, we interviewed a leading exorcist to find out, and the truth was shocking.
Tell me who you are.
The one you won't get out. The one you can't.
Levitations, vomiting, spitting at the priest with an uncanny marksmanship. That has not been a movie for me.
Listen to The Exorcist Files on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Paper Ghosts is a true crime podcast investigating the mysterious disappearance and brutal, unsolved murder of Tammy Zawicki.
They just kept telling us from the beginning, she'll be back, she'll be back.
We had no clue where she was. Didn't know where to begin looking.
Tammy's story shocked the nation. The deeper I searched, the more troubling things I found.
The best lead, the best evidence, the best witness was blown off.
Listen to Paper Ghosts on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your favorite shows.
I'm Jason Alexander.
And I'm Peter Tobin.
And we know you've been pining for a brand new podcast hosted by a beloved television icon.
And a largely unknown talk radio host.
Yeah. I wrote that. Pine no more, because we're the hosts of Really No Really, the funny, informative show that seeks the answers to things that make us say, really? No, really?
You'll laugh, you'll learn.
And we'll get paid. That's Really No Really with Jason Alexander and Peter Tilden on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or where you get your podcasts.
And anybody who uses the word pining, let me know, because I don't think anybody's used that since the Middle Ages.
Very common word.
The guys are here. They're going to break down, you know you've had good sex when, ...
Woo! I'm gonna do a couple, and then I know the guy's gonna jump in. I know they're gonna jump in. I know.
Yeah. Okay.
A lot of people have been getting used to one another.
They're not. I just don't like to
tired. They rested. They haven't been gone. So they've been throwing down some good loving. You know you have had some good sex when you wake up with one sock on. You're like, damn, that was what the hell? What the hell happened? Where's my sock? Here's another one. You know you've had some good ass loving when both of y'all wake up between the two mattresses. Like, what the hell?
The mattress on top?
Oh, yeah, the mattress is on top.
Oh, that's that good loving right there.
I got two more. You know, just for the men, you have had some good loving. When you wake up, you look in the mirror and you got on her eyelash. Like, damn. How the hell?
Boy, this was good, boy.
This was good. Yeah, I got one more. Yeah, all right. You know you have had some good loving. Good ass loving. When you wake up and both of y'all is at the bottom of the bed. Like, how the hell? What is... All right, I know you got one. Anybody got one? Jump in. Bring it.
You know you had some good loving when, ...
Hang on, Jay. You know you've had some good loving when you knock all her medication off the nightstand. It's all on the floor. Pills is everywhere. We don't know which one to take.
I love it. Tommy, what you got?
You know when you had some good loving and you just look at her and say, where your mama at?
Wait, what? Generational loving?
My bad.
Wow. Okay.
Where are we going?
You know you've had some good loving.
You know you done had some good loving when you wake up the next morning and call in to work and your job ain't been open since the 13th.
That's good loving. Hey, I ain't gonna make it today. All right.
I love it.
I got one. You know you have had some good loving when you wake up and there's a hot glue gun in your hand and it's still on. Like, what the hell was I hot gluing? What?
You know you've had some good sex when you kick over a candle in the middle of sex and y'all turn into firefighters.
All right. You know you had some good loving when you in the middle of it and look her in her eyes and say, you know what? I'm going to buy you some money. I swear to God, I'm going to buy you some money. I ain't lying to you.
All right.
You know you done had some good loving when both y'all jump up and start washing your hands and it ain't got nothing to do with Corona.
I got one more, and then you close it out, Steve. I got one more, and then you close it out. One more. You know you have had some good loving when you wake up and there's a happy face on your ass. You like, what the hell?
I cannot.
Who put that there?
An emoji?
Who put that there? Close it out, Steve. Close it out, man.
You know you done had some good loving when the family is down there having breakfast during quarantine, and you and your wife look at the kids and go, "What y'all looking at us for? Quit looking at us." Grown folks.
Oh my God.
Man.
All right, coming up next.
Damn it, quit looking over here.
Close the door.
Right after this.
You're listening to the Steve Harvey Morning Show.
Have you ever watched The Exorcist and wondered, are demons real? Well, we interviewed a leading exorcist to find out, and the truth was shocking.
Tell me who you are.
The one you won't get out. The one you can't.
Levitations, vomiting, spitting at the priest with an uncanny marksmanship. That has not been a movie for me.
Listen to The Exorcist Files on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Paper Ghosts is a true crime podcast investigating the mysterious disappearance and brutal, unsolved murder of Tammy Zawicki.
They just kept telling us from the beginning, she'll be back, she'll be back.
We had no clue where she was. Didn't know where to begin to look.
Tammy's story shocked the nation. The deeper I searched, the more troubling things I found.
The best lead, the best evidence, the best witness was blown off.
Listen to Paper Ghosts on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your favorite shows.
I'm Jason Alexander.
And I'm Peter Tobin.
And we know you've been pining for a brand new podcast hosted by a beloved television icon.
And a largely unknown talk radio host.
Yeah. I wrote that. Pine no more, because we're the hosts of Really No Really, the funny, informative show that seeks the answers to things that make us say, real? No, really?
You'll laugh, you'll learn.
And we'll get paid. That's Really No Really with Jason Alexander and Peter Tilden on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or where you get your podcasts.
And anybody who...
There's no such thing as climate change. The environment doesn't need our help. That's just, people don't want to hear that. But they would just want to hear something. And that's, I think that's what we're offering at this point. And so I think we're on a healthy track. As Republicans, I am still very worried about this bill that has the potential of passing, but, you know.
Hey, let me ask you about that infrastructure bill, okay? Because, I mean, I've thought and talked to many people about this, that, you know, if the Democrats need something to do, because they need something to do and they're in power, and, well, maybe infrastructure isn't such a bad preoccupation. There's something real about it, hopefully, at least maybe 30% of it, which might not be bad given, you know, large projects waste a lot, always. And so, pros and cons of the infrastructure project as far as you're concerned.
Yeah, so there's two things for people's understanding. There's this reconciliation package. You hear the number 3.5 trillion associated with that. So that's one thing. And then there's the infrastructure, the bipartisan infrastructure deal, which is like 1.23 trillion. Still a lot of money. The bipartisan infrastructure deal substantively is not bad. It has a lot of good things, right?
Like what? Like what? What do you see that's good?
It's just your typical boring infrastructure stuff, like highway funding, like port funding, sewage treatment, this kind of stuff. Okay.
It's boring when it works.
It's legitimately, yes, exactly. It's legitimately decent infrastructure. Our opposition to it, again, it's not everybody's opposed to it, but my personal opposition to it is it's about 3 to 4 times too much money.
That's about what you'd expect, though.
Yeah, and it's just if it was cut in half, at least you could get me scratching my head, like maybe. But it is important for people to know the substance of it is not bad. It's the price tag is just too much, considering we've spent $6 trillion on getting our economy back on track after COVID, which frankly was mostly money well spent. It's probably some of the best work government has done in crisis, to be honest, especially with the small business loan program that we instituted here in the U.S. But it's in any case, it's not the time to just be throwing money out the door. You know, with hyperinflation coming about, you just need to be more careful. Is really our only opposition to the infrastructure bill. So that's.
And what about the 3? So now you separated out the 1.2 trillion, which you're speaking reasonably positively about for, you know, a suspicious conservative type, and then there's the 3.5 trillion. So let's talk about that. And you know, because the fear was that everything would be put into that basket, right? Of course, that's going to happen. So detail out that.
Yeah. So the reconciliation package is a series of tax hikes, about over $2 trillion in tax increases, 3/4 of which will indeed, despite what the Democrats say, they're lying about this because we have liberal think tanks that have done assessments, and it will increase taxes on at least 3/4 of lower to middle income people. It will increase your taxes. Because there's so many different types of tax increases, and it's going to hit you somehow. And if it doesn't hit you there, it's probably going to reduce your wages. So we've already seen
how much are people looking at being hit by?
About 1%, which is it's not a ton, but it's something. But I think what's worse about the way Democrats do economic policy, it's not like it's going to make your wages noticeably decrease immediately, but I'll tell you what, they're not going to increase. And I have proof of this. You know, if we look at the last 15 years of data so let's look at two major recessions, one COVID and one 2008 financial crisis, and two different types of economies, two different types of governing philosophies. And the first time was under Obama. Look, we need more tax. We need to tax the rich. We need to spend money on infrastructure. They had this nearly $1 trillion infrastructure package back then. Turned out everybody agrees now that turned out to be a waste and did not contribute to the economy the way we'd hoped it would. The shovel-ready myth. Okay, that's widespread agreement on that in hindsight. At the time, I can understand why you might think that stimulus is important, but in hindsight, it didn't work out. Okay, but you're also increasing taxes. You're a threat to businesses because you like to regulate them, and they tend to see businesses as more of a bad actor than a good actor that creates investment and jobs. Okay, and so what did that create? Well, it created plenty of wealth for the top. Everybody's mad about inequality. Under that system, the top still get richer because they could figure it out. But the bottom quintile of earners was stagnant. So that's not a myth. That was true. Now, after the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act in 2017, this is Trump's major accomplishment, obviously. Anyway, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. So what do? We cut corporate tax rates, cut everybody's cut taxes everywhere, right? Tax cuts for everybody. And what happened to wages? Well, if you look at wage growth, the bottom quintile of earners skyrocketed. Now, it doesn't mean that it drastically reduced inequality, okay? But as far as the proportion goes, the percentage goes, the bottom people were growing much, much faster than the top. Now, in absolute terms, obviously not. And that's what everybody looks at, right? They want to take the data that they care about, and it makes their argument stronger. So they'll say, yeah, but they made $100 million more. Well, okay, well, they had $50 billion. So percentage-wise, they didn't make that much more. But the lowest quintile, doing this particular job, which, I don't know what a universe you could imagine where that particular job is making that much more, but they were growing. Why? Because, pro-growth economic policies create a tight labor market, right? Where businesses have to compete to hire people. I mean, we're in a very tight labor market now. Wages are, no thanks to Biden, but mostly because of the pandemic and a few other things, but wages are pretty high. I mean, it is still hard to hire people. This bill could reverse that. Because look, the reality is that Biden economics has not really hit the United States because they haven't done anything. They haven't passed anything. All right, they've created this sort of their general view on business that it's bad, and the increase in regulations has, I think, decreased investment, but that's hard to measure. I think it's intuitive and obvious, but other than that, there hasn't been a major shock to the system. All right, a lot of the shocks are maybe too much spending and also supply chain problems, which are more related to the pandemic, and maybe a refusal of this administration to do anything about it and loosen certain restrictions. But it's a long. Anyway, point is pro-growth works, and it actually helps increase wages for the lowest quintile of earners. That's just that's a data-driven fact that we can look at over the past decade or so. So getting back to this reconciliation package, it's just doing the opposite. It's just doing the opposite. So you're going to reduce wages, more importantly, reduce their potential growth, because you're also creating an environment because you're raising corporate tax rates. So businesses are just going to hire less, right? It's never the CEO that gets hurt because of a corporate tax hike. It's just this absurd notion that you're just like taking it to these mean corporations. Yeah, what? These corporations that employ hundreds of thousands of people? What is it? It doesn't mean they should just do whatever they want.
No, it is the inequality in some sense that bothers people. But one of the things I have trouble with regards to leftist policies is that they actually underestimate the severity of the problem of inequality. And they assume that restructuring capitalism would remove inequality. And there's absolutely no evidence whatsoever that that has ever worked in any way other than the opposite, because inequality is not a consequence of capitalism.
Of names from 20 years old and upward, head by head, as the Lord commanded Moses. So he numbered them in the wilderness of Sinai. The people of Reuben, Israel's firstborn, their generations by their families, by their fathers' houses, according to the number of names, head by head, every male from 20 years old and upward, all who were able to go forth to war. The number of the tribe of Reuben was 46,500. Of the people of Simeon, their generations by their families, by their fathers' houses, those of them that were numbered according to the number of names, head by head, every male from 20 years old and upward, all who were able to go forth to war, the number of the tribes of Simeon was 59,300. Of the people of Gad, their generations by their families, by their fathers' houses, according to the number of the names from 20 years old and upward, all who were able to go forth to war, the number of the tribe of Gad was 45,650. Of the people of Judah, their generations by their families, by their fathers' houses, according to the number of names from 20 years old and upward, every man able to go forth to war, the number of the tribe of Judah was 74,600. Of the people of Issachar, their generations by their families, by their fathers' houses, according to the number of names from 20 years old and upward, every man able to go forth to war, the number of the tribe of Issachar was 54,400. Of the people of Zebulun, their generations by their families, by their fathers' houses, according to the number of names from 20 years old and upward, every man able to go forth to war, the number of the tribe of Zebulun was 57,400. Of the people of Joseph, namely the people of Ephraim, their generations by their families, by their fathers' houses, according to the number of names from 20 years old and upward, every man able to go forth to war, the number of the tribe of Ephraim was 40,500. Of the people of Manasseh, their generations by their families, by their fathers' houses, according to the number of names from 20 years old and upward, every man able to go forth to war, the number of the tribe of Manasseh was 32,200. Of the people of Benjamin, their generations by their families, by their fathers' houses, according to the number of names from 20 years old and upward, every man able to go forth to war, the number of the tribe of Benjamin was 35,400. Of the people of Dan, their generations by their families, by their fathers' houses, according to the number of names from 20 years old and upward, every man able to go forth to war, the number of the tribe of Dan was 62,700. Of the people of Asher, their generations by their families, by their fathers' houses, according to the number of names from 20 years old and upward, every man able to go forth to war, the number of the tribe of Asher was 41,500. Of the people of Naphtali, their generations by their families, by their fathers' houses, according to the number of names from 20 years old and upward, every man able to go forth to war, the number of the tribe of Naphtali was 53,400. These are those who were numbered, whom Moses and Aaron numbered with the help of the leaders of Israel, 12 men, each representing his father's house. So the whole number of the sons of Israel, by their fathers' houses, from 20 years old and upward, every man able to go forth to war in Israel, their whole number was 603,550. But the Levites were not numbered by their ancestral tribe along with them. For the Lord said to Moses, "Only the tribe of Levi you shall not number. You shall not take a census of them among the sons of Israel, but appoint the Levites over the tabernacle of the covenant, and over all its furnishings, and over all that belongs to it. They are to carry the tabernacle and all its furnishings, and they shall tend it, and they shall encamp around the tabernacle. When the tabernacle is to set out, the Levites shall take it down, and when the tabernacle is to be pitched, the Levites shall set it up. And if anyone else comes near, he shall be put to death. The sons of Israel shall pitch their tents by their companies, every man by his own camp, and every man by his own standard. But the Levites shall encamp around the tabernacle of the covenant, that there may be no wrath upon the congregation of the sons of Israel. And the Levites shall keep charge of the tabernacle of the covenant." Thus did the sons of Israel. They did according to all that the Lord commanded Moses. The fifth book of Moses, commonly called Deuteronomy. Chapter 1. Events at Horeb recalled. These are the words that Moses spoke to all Israel beyond the Jordan in the wilderness in the Arabah, over against Suf, between Paran and Tophel, Laban, Hazeroth, and Dizahab. It is 11 days' journey from Horeb by the way of Mount Sinai to Kadesh Barnea, and in the 40th year, on the first day of the 11th month, Moses spoke to the sons of Israel according to all that the Lord had given him in commandment to them, after he had defeated Sihon, the king of the Amorites, who lived in Heshbon, and Og, the king of Bashan, who lived in Ashtaroth and in Edrei. Beyond the Jordan, in the land of Moab, Moses undertook to explain this law, saying, "The Lord our God said to us in Horeb, 'You have stayed long enough at this mountain. Turn and take your journey, and go to the hill country of the Amorites, and to all their neighbors in the Arabah, in the hill country and in the lowland, and in the Negev, and by the seacoast, the land of the Canaanites, and Lebanon, as far as the great river, the river Euphrates. Behold, I have set the land before you. Go in and take possession of the land which the Lord swore to your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give to them and to their descendants after them." Appointment of the heads of the tribes. At that time I said to you, I am not able alone to bear you. The Lord your God has multiplied you, and behold, you are this day as the stars of heaven for multitude. May the Lord, the God of your fathers, make you 1,000 times as many as you are, and bless you as he has promised you. How can I bear alone the weight and the burden of you and your strife? Choose wise, understanding, and experienced men according to your tribes, and I will appoint them as your heads. And you answered me, "This thing that you have spoken is good for us to do." So I took the heads of your tribes, wise and experienced men, and set them as heads over you, commanders of thousands, commanders of hundreds, commanders of 50s, commanders of 10s, and officers throughout your tribes. And I charged your judges at that time, "Hear the cases between your brethren, and judge righteously between a man and his brother, or the alien that is with him. You shall not be partial in judgment. You shall hear the small and the great alike. You shall not be afraid of the face of man, for the judgment is God's. And the case that is too hard for you, you shall bring to me, and I will hear it. And I commanded you at that time all the things that you should do." Israel's refusal to enter the land. And we set out from Horeb, and went through all that great and terrible wilderness which you saw, on the way to the hill country of the Amorites, as the Lord our God commanded us. And we came to Kadesh Barnea. And I said to you, "You have come to the hill country of the Amorites, which the Lord our God gives us. Behold, the Lord your God has set the land before you. Go up, take possession, as the Lord, the God of your fathers, has told you. Do not fear or be dismayed." Then all of you came near me and said, "Let us send men before us, that they may explore the land for us, and bring us word again of the way by which we must go up, and the cities into which we shall come." The thing seemed good to me, and I took 12 men of you, 1 man for each tribe, and they turned and went up into the hill country, and came to the valley of Eshcol, and spied it out. And they took in their hands some of the fruit of the land, and brought it down to us, and brought us word again, and said, "It is a good land which the Lord our God gives us." Yet you would not go up, but rebelled against the command of the Lord your God, and you murmured in your tents and
Be present.
Okay.
The words coming up, it's very, very well done. But who gets to choose which of those are being interpreted properly, especially the hadith? I saw one hadith cited from a source that I'm pretty certain if I cited that source in a debate would be questioned as to its validity. And I've done more debates now with Muslims than any other group. As of the last trip, even more than Roman Catholics. I've done more debates with Muslims now. And depending on the individual, some of my opponents are very consistent, very, very good in being careful about this. But others, you quote a source from the hadith that seems to be against their position, and all of a sudden it's not a sound hadith. There are all sorts of questions today. I mean, I posted on Twitter a video from Shabir Ali that I saw last year, where he really took a less than mainline perspective on hadith. And the voices calling for reformation within Islam, all of them say the same thing. Whether inside or outside Islam, if there's going to be reformation, there has to be a change in the view, interpretation, categorization, and authority of the hadith, because until that's changed, you can't get away. You're stuck. There cannot be a reformation. Cannot be a reformation. Now, did you catch something else? I hope that when you listened to what he was saying, first of all, what was your attitude toward him? I'm afraid for a lot of folks, it was automatically distrust. He's deceptive. He really wants to kill me. So, for a lot of people, because of the beard, because of the kufi, the thing on the head, because of maybe a little bit of a accent, fear, dislike, but very rarely is it, oh Lord, give me an opportunity to talk to someone like this. Because I'd love to talk to that guy. I would love to talk to that guy. And you know where I'd go? You know where I'd go? Were you thinking about that? Did you think about, man, if I had an opportunity to talk to someone, what openings is he giving me to the gospel? What openings is he giving me? A couple years ago, I was in Charlotte Airport, and I found a shoe shine stand. The only time I ever get my shoes shined is I figure help that guy out and helps my shoes last longer too. Some of those guys do a great job. And they look better when they're done than when you bought them, actually. And I've got a new pair of shoes, and I'm hoping to find a good. There used to be one guy in St. Charles I'd go to, died of a heart attack a few years ago. I went to this thing, the stand was still there, and it was a different guy. And when I asked, he said, yeah. And he told me, he was like, oh, man. Anyway, I found this shoe stand, and I saw the guy's names, like Muhammad or Abdullah or something like that. We ended up having a great conversation, but he gave me all the indication I needed to know what direction I needed to go with him. To leave him with something that would absolutely be the most effective thing to speak to him and maybe to be used in his life. I'm seeing stuff in the channel that's not only distracting, but again, sad in many ways, coming from Christians. But he gave the opening. Did you hear what it was? Did you catch it? I know a lot of you haven't, you weren't around when I first started really emphasizing Islam, and as I was learning myself and as I continue to learn, I was going through Sheikh Yasser Qadi's stuff. He sent me his 16 CD series, Light and Guidance, and I listened to it a few times, learned so much, and that's why I've got a lot of respect for him. And one of the things that just caught me was listening to these men. You see what happens when you have a holy God, a revealed law, sin, a clearer picture of hell than is presented in Christianity. I mean, as far as the details and the suffering and everything else, I mean, it really draws a lot from medieval Christianity. But anyway, but you don't have a mediator. You don't have a mediator. And you saw what happens in Sufism, in people who've been influenced by a Sufi spirituality. What happened? Did you catch it? Did you see the exaltation of Muhammad? The birds would come to Muhammad, and the clouds would rush to shade him. And he would condemn people for burning an ant. Well, those narrations are there. And if you want to construct a filter to read the hadith in that way, why do you think, people have wondered, why did you take the time to read all of Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim? I mean, that was hundreds of hours. Why do that? You've got to understand the character of that material. And you can create a filter to let that kind of stuff through and make Muhammad into, well, someone that sounds strikingly like Jesus. But the problem is that filter has to filter out a whole mess of other stuff that doesn't fit that paradigm at all. At all. I mean, I didn't bring it in here with me. Oh, by the way, just in passing, I've talked about this. We're going to be talking some more about this. This is causing the new study Quran, new translation commentary, causing big waves. We're going to be looking some more at that. Anyway, I didn't bring the book in here, but in the video that I shot last week? I think it was last week. I held up one of the really uber expensive Brill books I have in my library on the military campaigns of Muhammad. What do you think? On the military campaigns with 580 pages, something like that. The military campaigns of Muhammad. Those didn't come through in this. The beheading of the Jews after certain battle, that didn't come through in this. So there was a very strong filter functioning here. I'm thankful for the filter.